Good morning. This morning it's Valentine's Day, and we're just going to think about how much God has shown his love to us. So this morning I thought I'd talk with Marie because I know that she's got some wonderful examples of how much God has shown his love to her throughout this last year. Over to you, Marie.
Okay, so good morning everyone and happy Valentine's Day. It's a really special day when we celebrate love. And I think for Christians, we really feel that love from God because we know God is with us all the time. And I know when I first asked God into my life, I think I was about 38. So I was brought up a Catholic, but then, stopped believing in God. And then I asked God into my heart. And when I done that, I just had this overwhelming feeling of love. So it was just, so much, really too much to handle, really. So I just had this feeling of love. And that was always been with me since that day. So that was about 16 years ago. Wow. So I've always felt God's love throughout my life. And it's so much that you can't handle yourself, and you find that love overflowing to others, and you feel God's presence with you all the time as well.
So true,
just
isn't it?
to focus on, it is. It's just amazing. You feel this peace that comes over you, this deep joy, but this just overflowing and overwhelming love that God gives you. And since that day, God has always been with me, and I've always felt that love really from him, and that enables me to because I've felt that extreme love, to pass that love on to other people. So within my family, I'm a head teacher in a secondary school, and so I pass that love on to the students that attend the school, all of the staff and all of their families. It's a really special school, and I'm able to show that love that God has shown me. God has been with me over this last year. It's been an extremely difficult year for everybody, facing a global pandemic, something that none of us have experienced in our lifetime. Very anxious time, very scary time, really, when we didn't know a year ago what we were going to be facing.
That's right.
And, we've seen the first cases of COVID within the country. And we've seen it quickly spreading in Italy, and would come over here, and then we went into a lockdown in March. But I always felt God's presence in that time, and I was feeling fearful and anxious, and maybe having trouble sleeping, and wondering what was going to happen with the school and with my family, and was I going to catch it? Was I going to get ill from it? Were people in my family going to get seriously ill with it? Because there's some vulnerable people in my family. My dad's very vulnerable. But just feeling God's love and his presence right throughout that. And the fact that God was with me that whole time, and he got me through all the things we had to get through. So last January, we had our second Ofsted as a school, and we were judged as outstanding. And it really was a miracle, and God got us through that. And then we went into a national lockdown in March, and schools were closed. And again, God got us through. We had no cases of COVID within the school. No students or families or staff became ill. And I do believe God protected us at that time and got us through that lockdown. And then when we went back to school in September, cases were extremely high. There was so much COVID with staff and students across the city in Liverpool. At that time, it was, the highest number of cases in October. But again, God protected us. And we had we had a couple of positive cases, but there was no transmission within school. And so God really protected us right throughout the year. And at the end of the year, my husband had a stroke, the end of November. So not only an extremely difficult time, but just a really personal, challenging time for me. Because, he had a serious stroke. He's had a blockage in his neck, in the main artery in his neck. And he had to have an operation to clear that blockage. Or he could have had another stroke and died. there's not many it's a very tricky operation, very risky. You either come out of the operation or you don't. And he was taken to the for Zackley, and there was no surgeon within that hospital that could do the operation, and they rang round Widnes, St Helens, everywhere, trying to find a surgeon that was willing to do such a risky operation. And then a surgeon from the Royal said, I will do it, without even seeing the paperwork. And so Tony was transferred to the hospital, and the operation was a success.
That's wonderful.
And, yeah, he's recovering really well. But it was God's love, really, that got us through that, God's protection. Because I couldn't even go in and see him. I couldn't even contact him because he couldn't speak at that time. And I had to just look to God and ask God to get me through it. And, I know that was a miracle that God done for Tony. And I remember sort of thinking about how much I loved him, and that I couldn't, be without him. And, just praying to God that he would save him and not take him at this time. And that's what God done. And, I remember someone praying with me, Joan O'Hara prayed with me that God would, reignite that love that we had for each other. And that's what happened, so that love between us has become stronger. And that's just in the last year, the love that God has shown me. He's just amazing. And, I would encourage anyone who hasn't got that relationship with God or who hasn't experienced that love with God, especially on this day when we celebrate love, to just ask God into their hearts. It's a special day when we celebrate love. There's nothing to lose from doing it. And just ask God, you can even just be by yourself in your home. I know there'll be an opportunity at the end of the service for you to pray and ask God into your heart. But just to say to you that God, once you ask him, he will come into your heart, and you will feel that overwhelming love, and you will feel God's presence with you all the time. So even though things are challenging and difficult, the fact that God's with you and you've got his love with you every day, it just gets you through everything.
It's amazing, isn't it? Oh, thank you, Marie. And that's it. We just need to give God all the glory, because he is such a God of love. And everything Marie has said is true. And I'm just thinking now, if anybody isn't sure about Jesus or about God's love, and they really would like to know more, Marie, I know you weren't expecting me to ask you this, but you run an Alpha course, don't you? And that's a platform where people can learn more and get to know God and get to know his love. So there's one starting soon, isn't there? Will be one. Can I just...
So we're hoping to start one in February, and obviously we need, about 6 to 8 people to join. But Alpha was, that I went on an Alpha course, and that's how I first encountered God, because at that time I was an atheist and had no faith, but I had all of these questions. And the Alpha course is an amazing course where you can just come at any level or any type of belief, or even if you don't have any belief in God, but you have questions about, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? Why do people suffer? Why do these things happen? That you have all of these questions, that you can feel safe and comfortable just to speak honestly and ask those questions. We go through a course. It's a 10-week course, and gradually, week by week, those questions are answered, and many people, experience God through that course. So if there's anyone at that point where they have a lot of questions and they're not sure about their faith and which way to go, I'd really encourage them to contact us. There will be an email at the end of the service. Just email us, and we will get you started on the course.
That's great. That's wonderful. Oh, thank you, Marie. Thank you for sharing how God's love is for you. And please, if anybody does want to know more of God's love, please contact us. Oh, thank you. Have a good rest of the day, Marie. And
thanks, Gina. Lovely to speak to you.
And you.